It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Wally.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. We're your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, breaking news, culture, dramatic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. We have a lot to talk about today, specifically coming out of China. And I think it was actually Arthur Hayes who initially said this, right? We have the ETFs here in the US. And, China needs some ETFs as well, but China's in a tough spot specifically because, they banned Bitcoin mining, they banned the ownership of Bitcoin. But what it seems like they're doing is that they're using Hong Kong as kind of like this proxy to be able to benefit from number go up technology, benefit from Bitcoin, but at the same time, keep the mainland isolated, right? To keep the mainland, still with the CBDC, still with total control, and then use Hong Kong as, kind of benefit from it. This is very interesting what's happening. So we'll make the case for you guys today. Make no mistake, these Hong Kong Bitcoin ETFs would not be approved unless Beijing gave specific approval. We have evidence for you guys as well to back up that fact from Bloomberg. This is actually something we covered quite a while ago. This Bloomberg article, if my memory serves me correctly, is from like mid 2023. So we'll make the case for you guys on that as well. But this is just another example of Bitcoin's incentives doing what Bitcoin's incentives do best. Eventually, everyone bends the knee, including some of the most tyrannical authoritarian governments in the world, like the CCP, which is currently in control of China and Hong Kong and Macau and all that. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. We'll make the case for you guys. Very interesting. Again, Bitcoin's incentives stay winning. And the case that we've been making for you guys for quite a while now, I actually tweeted it out yesterday, is the reason that we believe Bitcoin has already won and Bitcoin's going to continue to win is because it has a superior incentives. Full stop. Everything else, including specifically government money like fiat, which is, I think, Bitcoin's chief political, is the Freudian slip there, but I'm going to stick to it. Chief political and economic opponent. It requires coercion. Like governments have to coerce people into using it. You see that with the Elizabeth Warren bill that's currently in Congress, as 20 senators signed up to it, which would basically be a de facto mining ban in the United States, to use Pierre Richard's words, not mine. And also, she went after self-custody, and you see this in the European Union as well. You see that with those, arbitrary bans. Like if it's a transaction over 3,000 euros, somehow, if that's anonymous, you're a criminal. Like it's so absurd, right? So we're going to unpack all of that. We're going to have a conversation. But the reason that Bitcoin's going to win at the end of the day is because it doesn't require coercion. It's the incentive structure is there. People adopt it because they're incentivized to adopt it versus fiat money, legal tender laws, all this stuff. Governments are trying to ram it down people's throats. Usually when you have to build some type of wall to try to keep people using your system, it tends to not work. Just history is a great kind of indication of that. So I think at the end of the day, incentives are going to rule the day, which means that Bitcoin is going to rule the day. That's something that's incredibly obvious to anyone who's adopted a Bitcoin standard, but the rest of the world is just waking up to that. But I think over the next couple of cycles, I think this cycle even, you're going to see another public company follow MicroStrategy, follow Tesla's footsteps. I think you're going to see another nation state follow Nayib Bukele, follow El Salvador's footsteps. I think Bitcoin is inevitable. I think Bitcoin has already won. Why? Because it has superior incentives. Even with the CCP China mining ban, they banned this thing. And look, they're coming back. It's estimated that between 10 to 15% of the hash rate is still located in mainland China. There's a tremendous amount of volume still being traded in mainland China. So in one of the most totalitarian countries in the world, people will risk going to jail just because they want to interact with Bitcoin, right? This is a testament of Bitcoin's incentives. And I'll drop you guys another example, then we'll introduce our guest for today. When China banned Bitcoin mining within its borders, hash rate dropped 50%. It's part of the reason I don't think we hit 100K last cycle, but the hash rate recovered within 9 months without any CEO or central party telling those miners to be plugged back in. It was just people following their incentives. They wanted profit, right? That's the beauty of the Bitcoin network. It's like, you could say that it's like this, it's this autonomous network that has captured humanity in a way to ensure its survival. Like, it's so interesting, such a deep rabbit hole. Anyways, we're almost at 300 people already. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button and consider subscribing if you feel like we're providing you value. Anyways, I do want to bring up our guests for today. We have Paul and Pat. Paul and Pat are with the Kansas City Cattle Company. As Bitcoiners, we absolutely love steak and beef. So it's great to have you guys on the show. Paul, how you doing today?
Great, man. How you guys doing?
Great, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And how you doing, Pat?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It's going to be a great show. Also, during the news segment as well, before we talk to our guests for a little bit, we have some interesting news. It's kind of like a tale of two cities, two different approaches. We've told you about the Kingdom of Bhutan. It was a Time article that came out, actually, Time magazine article that came out. Basically, it uncovered that, this small country in the Himalayas has been mining Bitcoin, like, kind of on the, on the down low for a while. Why? Because it's a country that has a tremendous amount of excess electrical capacity, right? They have huge rivers. These rivers power the country. They try to export some of that electricity, but of course, some awesome entrepreneurs, the government itself, figured out like, okay, we could turn some of that excess power, excess electricity into sweet Satoshis. I think this is a story that you're going to continue to see all over the world, right? And then Bhutan has decided to, take that route of scaling up operations, which means that clearly things are going in the right direction. But Paraguay, which is a country that has accumulated a lot of hash rate due again to a lot of the natural resources there. I believe it's hydro, but in Paraguay, they're mulling over a temporary Bitcoin ban, right? And we've known how this ends up. Like, this happened in China already. Like, Bitcoin didn't go away. Those miners relocated to Texas. They relocated to Kazakhstan. They're not going to go back to China. Right? Like, that's a one-way door, right? So any government that kind of does this is unfriendly to Bitcoin mining. I think in the long term, not only do they hurt their citizens, but I think they're going to regret what they're doing. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this?
I mean, we know, guys, everyone knows out there that has studied Bitcoin at all that Bitcoin is the real ESG project, even though I hate using that meme. And what do we always say? Anyone that fights against Bitcoin is just shooting themselves in the foot. Metaphorically, yeah. So we're still early on YouTube, metaphorically. But hey, this just goes to show that Bitcoin incentives are strong. And if you are in energy production, if you are close to energy production, you need to have a Bitcoin strategy or else you are going to have fun staying poor. But before we go on, I do want to, give some context here, guys, about our guests. So Pat and Paul are from the Kansas City Cattle Company. They just went on the Bitcoin standard. Pat himself is a new convert to Bitcoin. So guys, we're going to be talking about stakes in Bitcoin. You guys know me. That's one of my favorite conversations to have. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one.
100%. It's going to be a great show. I know Bitcoiners absolutely love steak. They love beef. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Lots to talk about today. And I think we don't know for sure, but we might be able to do a Simply Bitcoin live show from the floor of BitBlock Boom tomorrow. We're going to go today.
If we work hard enough later.
Yeah, we're going to go and we're going to give our best shot at setting up today, see if we have it already. If we have it already, then we'll be streaming live from BitBlock Boom. And that should be a good show. I'm excited, man. Having party and then BitBlock Boom back to back.
Dude, we're working so hard.
Bro, we're on fire. Oh my God, I just burped. Excuse me. We're on fire. All right, everybody, let's jump into the show. We have a lot to talk about. Anyways, before we get to it, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to our flagship sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. That can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. They're a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 states. They're on a mission to enable financial independence through Bitcoin. Guys, check out bitcoinwell.com/simplybitcoin today. Also, they have a contest going live right now. It's live. It has been live. It's called the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest. All you got to do to enter is you sign up to the on-ramp. If you're an existing user, you go to the rewards tab. Every time you stack sats on Bitcoin Well, you earn points, and you could put those points to use by putting them in the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest. That enters you into the contest, and it gives you the ability to potentially win 4.6 million Satoshis. That jackpot continues to get bigger as more and more people continue to buy Bitcoin using the Bitcoin Well platform. Guys, go to bitcoinwell.com/simplybitcoin today. Support on-ramps that are self-custody by default, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. All right, everybody, let's get to numbers. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's do it. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, gentlemen, there's about 450 of you watching live between YouTube and X. There's about 50 of you guys watching live on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying the show so far, please smash that like button. It really helps with the algos, helps us push the orange signal forward. Anyways, also guys, make sure to get yourself a Stamp Seed kit. Properly secure your generational wealth. Stamp your seed into titanium. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $69,700. Sats per dollar, 1,435. Block height, 838,770. Blocks to halving, 1,230. Halving estimate, April 19, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,363 Bitcoin. Capacity value, 304 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, Opti, could you pull that comment down, please? 1.73%. The market capitalization is 1.37 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap is 9.93%. In the grand scheme of things, we're just getting started. I heard that every single time Bitcoin reaches 10% of the gold market cap, Peter Schiff sheds a tear. It's a rumor, though. Hasn't been confirmed, but that's what I'm hearing. Anyways, I do want to get to the China news right off the rip. And again, this is something that we've been covering for quite a long time. And it seems like, again, Chinese officials are taking advantage of how Hong Kong is structured and how, you know, the mainland is structured. And it seems like, again, they're kind of using like Hong Kong as like a proxy to benefit from Bitcoin. But and actually Alex Gladstein wrote an incredible article on this. The name of the article is Bitcoin is basically a freedom enabling technology area. And one of the things that he says in that article is, I'm paraphrasing here and hopefully I'm not butchering it, is that number go up technology and freedom enabling technology are inextricably linked. You can't disconnect the two. I remember now. It's the name of the article is Bitcoin is a Trojan horse for freedom, right? But it's interesting the lengths to which governments will go to again, not to try to benefit from NGU. Like they can't resist NGU. Like this is Bitcoin's incentives, but they just like, okay, we want NGU, but like the freedom stuff, like you can just leave that at the door. We don't want that. It's just very fascinating how that works. Anyways, and again, this is a country that has banned Bitcoin mining more times than I can count. The most serious ban that happened, and I think that they did this on purpose to attack the price, to be honest, was in 2021. They banned Bitcoin mining, 50% of the hash rate just shut off overnight. And, you know, all the trading and all that stuff. And, you know, they couldn't resist. It's still estimated 10 to 15% of the hash rate is still located in China. There's this tremendous amount of trading volume. I remember I hit up a friend of mine who lives in mainland China. I said, man, like, are you worried? And like, he said it with like a thick accent. He's like, and it's so funny, like how us Bitcoiners and Bitcoin culture is just, you know, it's propagated around the world, this meme culture. And he said, Nico, what doesn't kill the honey badger makes it stronger. Like, could you imagine that, bro? Like, you know, a thick accent, you know, halfway, like thousands of miles away from me. And he's like speaking the same lingo. Like that is super badass. Anyways, the name of the article is from Bloomberg. It says Hong Kong's crypto ambitions win quiet backing from Beijing, right? Very interesting. By the way, this article came out February 21st, 2023. It goes on to say in October, Hong Kong rolled out the red carpet for crypto businesses to help revitalize the embattled financial hub. Signs are now emerging. The push has under the radar backing from Beijing, providing impetus for mainland Chinese firms to return. Representatives from China's liaison office and other officials have been frequent guests at the city's crypto gatherings over the past month, swapping business cards and WeChat details, said people familiar with the matter, who asked not to be named, discussing private information. The encounters have been friendly, with officials checking on developments, asking for reports, and in some cases making follow-up calls, the people said. Mainland and overseas firms are taking the cue, pushing to register their businesses and planning a return to the Chinese territory 15 months after Beijing slapped a ban on the industry and forced many to set up shop abroad. Quote, as long as one doesn't violate the bottom line to not threaten financial stability in China, Hong Kong is free to explore its own pursuit under one country, two systems. Now, that's what they're telling you on paper, but you guys remember the Hong Kong protest. You guys remember how China cracked down on free speech and they jailed some political dissidents in Hong Kong. So like, this is what they're telling you, right? But I think in reality, I don't think that they'll be okay. Look, and this article says it itself. You know, I don't think these Bitcoin ETFs, and I'll get to that in a second, would ever be approved if Beijing didn't give the thumbs up. I think Beijing, again, is taking advantage of the quote unquote one country, two systems to benefit from NGU technology. Here's the recent article that I do want to cover today. It came out April 10th. It's on Reuters and it says Hong Kong set to approve its first spot Bitcoin ETFs in April. It goes on to say spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds could be launched in Hong Kong this month, with the first approvals likely to be announced next week. Two people familiar with the matter said the timeline would make Hong Kong's Asia's first city to offer the popular ETFs and is much faster than the industry expectations of launches sometime this year. Regulators have sped up the approval process, according to one of the people. So think about how crazy that is, right? So regulators that have to get the approval of mainland China, so the CCP, same CCP that banned Bitcoin mining, same CCP that's rolling out these crazy central bank digital currencies with expiration dates and the social credit system. That same CCP is like, you know what, regulators, hurry your ass up and roll out these Bitcoin ETFs. Why? Because the United States has a Bitcoin ETF. And of course, these ETFs, I think, really function as a proxy for these governments. I think BlackRock is a proxy for the US government. I think you can make the argument that the same thing, that these ETFs in Hong Kong serve as a proxy for the Chinese government. At the end of the day, look, it says it in the disclosure of a lot of these ETFs. And not to mention the fact that, at least here in the United States, the vast majority of this Bitcoin that these ETFs supposedly have bought in are custodied with Coinbase. And the reason that that FDR was able to get away with the 6102 order in the 1930s was because of the centralization of the custody of gold, right? So it kind of creates like a very similar situation. The geopolitical implications of this are fascinating in the sense that, like, these very powerful governments, that have these powerful central banks that, been known to here, even in the US, right? Shut down political dissent, came out with the Twitter files here in the US, even with the First Amendment, these behemoth of these governments, these giant bureaucracies, they can't help resisting Bitcoin's incentives. It's beautiful to see. And this is what I'm trying to say. This is what I've been trying to make the case for since the beginning of the episode, is that Bitcoin's going to win at the end of the day, fundamentally, because it has superior incentives and no one can resist them. If you take an ideological stance against Bitcoin, your competitor next to you is going to say, okay, I'm Vanguard, I'm not adding a Bitcoin ETF. BlackRock's like, okay, that's a great opportunity for me, bro. Right? So yeah, I think this is just Bitcoin's incentives doing what Bitcoin's incentives do best. It goes on to say, the article, having lost much of its shine as a global financial hub due to restrictions during the pandemic, China's faltering economy and Sino-US tensions, Hong Kong authorities have been keen to do what they can to improve the city's attractiveness for financial trading. Quote, the significance of Hong Kong's ETFs is far-reaching as it could bring in fresh global investment as well as pushing crypto adoption to a new height. Goes on to say the U.S. launched the first U.S. listed exchange, first ETFs to track spot Bitcoin in January, drawing roughly $12 billion in net inflows. Data from BitMEX research shows Bitcoin has gained more than 60% this year, hit an all-time high of 73,803 in March. It was trading at around 69,000 on Wednesday. At least 4 mainland Chinese and Hong Kong asset managers have submitted applications to launch the ETFs. Keyword, at least 4 mainland Chinese asset managers. Again, right? It's not just Hong Kong. You have to read between the lines, right? Beijing had to approve of this. This is nuts, man. This is nuts. No one could resist Bitcoin's incentives. Everyone eventually bows down to the king, and that includes one of the most, tyrannical, totalitarian regimes on planet Earth, man. That's Bitcoin's incentives for you. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this? And we'll pass it on to our guest.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something I've been saying for a minute on the show. And I know as Bitcoiners always have the meme of like slay your heroes and all that stuff. But ever since Larry Fink has gotten into Bitcoin, ever since the BlackRock ETF, everyone and their mother out there, all the people that have called us stupid, all the people that say Bitcoin is, I don't know, whatever, an asset for money laundering, now they all have to check the premises and they all have to have a Bitcoin stance. So what do we always say? If you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom. If they don't have a Bitcoin strategy at this point, then they're going to get left in the dust. Now, I think the most interesting thing is we've been seeing the receipts here for a while. It's once Larry Fink got into Bitcoin, it gave Bitcoin a sense of legitimacy to high net worth individuals, Wall Street institutions. And now we're seeing that China is waking up to this and they're like, oh shit, if there's a spot Bitcoin ETF, we probably need a Bitcoin ETF. And I think the most interesting part about this is, remember that one caveat in the BlackRock ETF line that like they can support whatever fork they want to. And so I think this is now, not only is it the game theory playing out on nation state levels, excuse me, guys, but the game theory is playing out right now that if BlackRock or Larry Fink or any of their friends try to do some fuckery with Bitcoin, they're going to get left in the dust. So now that the US has to compete with Bitcoin on an ETF level, the game theory is really going to start to play out, and it's going to get very interesting because, hey, if Larry Fink tries to throw his whole weight behind some kind of competing fork and China's like on the back end, they're like, no, I'm good. And then all of us are stacking the real Bitcoin. It's really when the game theory starts playing out. It's really when you start to see that people are competing for the accumulation of as much Bitcoin as possible. And now you're seeing that, hey, the people that are so used to not having to compete are going to have to compete on the free market. No longer can you have the regulatory arbitrage from the US government to protect your moat. Now everyone's competing on a global, international level for the hardest money in the world. Guys, continue to stack sats, continue to accumulate, take it into Bitcoin, self-custody. This is the way. We're winning. We're out here winning every day. It's so easy.
It might be a good idea to get some just in case it catches on. Anyways, I do want to pass it on to our guests. I'm going to start with Pat. Pat, what's your take on this? I mean, it's incredible. This is so obvious in hindsight. I mean, we've been covering this topic for many months now. Yeah, I mean, everyone bows down to the king. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of government staying out of the way for people to do the things they enjoy, personal freedoms. Obviously, with the CCP, there's probably always some nefarious underlyings under that, and trusting them is probably never a good idea. So always hedge your bets there.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, what's your take on this?
Incentives rule the world, right? Like everything that they put in front of them is almost like a show at this point to me. It's like everybody realizes the same thing. We all need to hold Bitcoin, and I don't really trust anything. I follow the money. So like, it's always like they're going to accumulate it. They know the incentives. I don't trust anything.
Yeah, the incentive structure, there's nothing to trust. Like it's just the incentive structure is set up in a way where, you know, like it's just you kind of have you have an idea of like what, you know, even if, again, like one of the most totalitarian countries in one of the most tyrannical totalitarian countries in the world, right? That the history of the CCP is not exactly, you know, a good one. They can't even resist it themselves. You know, they want to benefit from Bitcoin. And even if that's not the case, like even if you can make the argument like, no, Nico, they don't want to benefit from Bitcoin. I think that from on a geopolitical standpoint, I think that they put themselves, you know, at a disadvantage to the United States, which they obviously see as their political rival. If they get left behind, like, you know, if they don't adopt Bitcoin, at least they don't bring in have some type of exposure to Bitcoin. I think that's really what these ETFs are all about. So yeah, I mean, this is crazy, bro. Like everyone's just competing for Bitcoin, and in the process, for anyone who's holding Bitcoin, that means you win. This is awesome, guys. Congratulations. You front ran Wall Street, nation states.
No, you front ran Xi Jinping.
Oh man. Anyways, Opti, any last thoughts?
Nah, man. Let's keep it moving. We're out here winning, guys. Just accumulate as much Bitcoin, take it into self custody, and continue to spread the signal. This is us winning.
Amen to that. All right, everybody, I do want to show off our newly released collection. Of course, I'm talking about the Simply Bitcoin Artist Collection 01. We teamed up with a Bitcoin artist named Asanoa. We have different merch. We have the Peaceful Bitcoin Revolution t-shirt. We have the Bitcoin Pill t-shirt. We have the gold Bitcoin snapback. We have the gold Bitcoin dad hat. We have woman merch as well. By the way, we brought a lot of us, we brought some merch with us to BitBlock Boom. So if you're going to BitBlock Boom this weekend, you can come to us, and we'll have some merch for you guys at the news desk, kind of the front of BitBlock Boom, which should be a lot of fun. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, no more delay. Let's get on to the news section. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Opti, could you send Rustin the address? Because he's he's Ubering to the Airbnb. Anyways, and it's not ready. Guys, scan the QR code on your screen right now, and it'll take you directly to the Foundation Devices website where you guys can get yourself a Passport hardware wallet. It's completely open source. It's super easy to use, especially when you pair it up with the Envoy app. I highly recommend it. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Anyways, I do want to talk about, again, if you guys have been tuning into Simply Bitcoin, which I highly suggest you do, subscribe if you guys are new to the live stream. Should not have come as a surprise to you. But there was a very famous article that came out of Time magazine, out of all places. And the article was basically making you think that the Kingdom of Bhutan has been secretly mining Bitcoin for years. They've been using their excess hydroelectric capacity, which they tend to export to other countries. It's a very small country, not that many people, and they've been using that to mine Bitcoin, right? People have to understand that Bitcoin monetizes stranded energy. Bitcoin gives value to energy that was already going to waste. Nothing in the world does that, right? And there's a couple things about electricity that people don't know about. You have to kind of use it when you produce it. It's not efficient to store. It's very difficult to transport over long distances. If you transport over long distances, you lose a percentage of the electricity while you're transporting it. So you tend to want to use it on site or as close as possible to where it is produced. And this is where Bitcoin mining shines, because if you have a dam in the middle of nowhere, it's far away from a city, it's far away from a factory, manufacturing. What are you going to do with all that power, right? This is why Bitcoin mining took off in China, right? This is what's happening in Bhutan, right? They have a tremendous amount of hydroelectric capability, and that's where Bitcoin miners are going to fundamentally change the world. You're going to see towns, cities, anywhere around the world that before you could make the argument that they were poor. There's not that much opportunity there. But let's say they have a tremendous amount of natural resources, the ability to generate power extremely cheaply. All of a sudden, Bitcoin miners could make that city thrive because it gives that stranded energy that was already going to waste value, right? So Bitcoin mining really, really changes the conversation. And I think the world is really going to start to wake up to that as hyper Bitcoinization continues to accelerate over time. So the article that I'm reading here is Bhutan to ramp up Bitcoin mining capacity to 600 megawatts as halving looms. It goes on to say Bhutan's investment arm, Druk Holding and Investments, and Bitdeer Technologies are planning to ramp up their Bitcoin mining operation to help offset the revenue impact of an upcoming Bitcoin halving. It goes on to say, quote, the planned upgrades will increase the Himalayan kingdom's mining capacity by 500 megawatts by the first half of 2025. Matt Kong, chief business officer at Bitdeer, said in an interview. This would bring Bhutan's total capacity to 600 megawatts. Really interesting also, by the way. So do you see that jump? So if you subtract obviously 500 megawatts that they're trying to bring on, and they says the total capacity is 600, that means that they're jumping from 100 megawatt capacity to 600. So like, what is it? Like a 5x increase. And again, this isn't cheap to do. This is a tremendous amount of mining infrastructure. Bitdeer is also a publicly traded company, so they have to be wary about, their shareholder price and all that stuff. They have to make their shareholders happy. So yeah, this is and again, they're doing this going into a halving. So they're doing this knowing that their profits are going to get cut in half in 9 days or give or take, and they're doing it anyways. So what does that tell you about how Bhutan, right, a country, a nation state, and how Bitdeer feel about the future price of Bitcoin? If they didn't expect that the future price of Bitcoin was going to absolutely moon, they wouldn't be making this investment at this time. if you're making an investment in Bitcoin mining with the halving right around the corner, you're bullish on the future of Bitcoin. You don't lay out this infrastructure unless you believe that number is going to go up. And this is in complete contrast with a lot of the competing altcoins. So if you look at the Bitcoin Cash hash rate, if you look at a lot of these, the old, proof of work coins or whatever, they'll have one thing in common, which is their hash rate is literally going sideways. The Bitcoin Cash hash rate, the BSV hash rate, has literally been going sideways since its inception. I think Bitcoin Cash artificially had a competition with Bitcoin when it first launched. Jihan Wu and Roger Ver, they artificially, they basically set money on fire, and they pointed a lot of the hash from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash to convince the network that it was Bitcoin hash that was leading, that miners wanted to back Bitcoin Cash. That never happened. It came out that was artificial. That wasn't market forces doing what market forces do best. Anyways, it goes on to say the capital for this operation will be obtained from a $500 million fund initiated by the duo in May last year. At that time, they revealed intentions to utilize Bhutan's plentiful hydroelectric power for Bitcoin mining. Kong anticipates that the fund will be fully raised by July. The nation's 500 megawatt boost will be built on Bitdeer's latest hardware to lower costs and improve computing power. It goes on to say both DHI and Bitdeer remain confident that they can keep their operations efficient even if Bitcoin's price falls following Bitcoin halving. According to Kong, Bitdeer boasts one of the industry's lowest expenses per Bitcoin mine, costing only $20,000 per coin. Holy cow. Anyways, so that's what's happening in Bhutan, and this is in stark contrast with what's going on in Paraguay. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up, if we just talked about this in isolated, it would just be like, this is just noise, this is news. But I kind of want to talk about it and connect it with what we were talking about in the numbers section about Bitcoin's incentives. And even in China, with the mining ban, even with their political ideology, their stance, they couldn't resist Bitcoin's incentives. And what happened do you think China's at a better place with all the miners leaving the country? Or do you think it's in a worse place geopolitically, economically? Right? You can make a really good argument. So I think any country or jurisdiction that is hostile towards Bitcoin mining, you're hurting the citizens that live in that jurisdiction. You're basically banning yourself from the benefits of Bitcoin. You're not stopping Bitcoin, right? So because again, if you ban it here, if Paraguay decides to go down this path, all you're doing is that you're creating an incentive for another nation state like Bhutan to say, okay, you know what? You don't want to mine more Bitcoin for me. You want to make that decision? That's up to you. So anyways, the article from No BS Bitcoin says Paraguay mulls temporary Bitcoin mining ban, citing energy issues. It goes on to say the proposal presented on April 4th includes 14 senators who advocate for the halting of cryptocurrency creation, storage, and the operation of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency mining farms in the country. It goes on to say the proposal would the proposed ban would remain in effect for 180 days or until proper regulations are devised. The proposal is driven by the belief that it's sensible to restrain such activities until regulations are put in place. The ban is intended to continue until Paraguay's National Electricity Administration can ensure that they have adequate infrastructure to meet the energy demands of Bitcoin and crypto mining without destabilizing the rest of the grid. The draft states that Bitcoin miners have gravitated towards the Alto Panera region located in the southeast of the country near the borders of Brazil and Argentina. This region is home to the Itaipu hydroelectric dam, the world's third largest, which fulfills all of Paraguay's domestic electricity demands. Since February, there have been 50 instances of power outages in the region due to miners secretly and illegally tapping into the electric grid, which stated in the bill. Now, okay, you could say that, right? They say that in Texas. Elizabeth Warren has made the case for that in Texas as well, that Bitcoin is going to destabilize the grid. It's going to be, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be this. The case that I would make is what I was saying initially, right? That if that electricity was in demand, then it would be too expensive for Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners can't just set up shop in the middle of Manhattan. It's not economical to mine there. Bitcoin miners have to go where electricity is cheap. Electricity tends to be cheap when it's not being used, right? And that was kind of the theme that I heard in Texas. We saw so many politicians here in the U.S. attack the Texas grid, where in reality, in the Texas grid, it's a curtail, right? So essentially, if there's excess demand in Texas for electricity, if there's like a tough winter or something, the Bitcoin miners shut down. It actually provides grid stability, right? I don't think it provides, I don't think it does the opposite. It might be different in Paraguay, but it's just basic supply and demand, in my opinion. And again, I think any country that, basically creates a disincentive, a situation where it's being hostile towards the Bitcoin mining industry, I think you're really, you're hurting yourself in a way. And I think, China is a great example of that. Like, look at what they did. They literally banned themselves from the benefits of Bitcoin. And now they're, turning around and saying, you know what, actually, we like this Bitcoin ETF. Let's bring it to Hong Kong. And, it's still estimated that between 10 to 15% of Bitcoin miners are, quote, to use, the CCP's words, illegally mining Bitcoin within their borders. So yeah, that's my take on this. Let's see what happens. But anyways, Opti, what's your take? wait. The comment section absolutely going bananas. I'm not going to read that. But this is why you should watch the show, because that's absolutely hilarious. Anyways, what's your take, Opti?
Well, my first thought while you were reading that, I mean, we have China in the news today with the ETF, but didn't Paraguay hear about China trying to ban Bitcoin mining, and it didn't work? And look where that got them. Oh man, I just love seeing governments trying to stop Bitcoin, because it always reminds me that we are right and that they're afraid of people finding the exit valve. So like, Bitcoin's the exit valve for value. Bitcoin mining is the exit valve for energy. And it's decentralized. It's individuals out there taking action, human action, purposeful human action, and realizing that, oh my God, it's more profitable and it's better for me to join this Bitcoin network than it is to participate in the regulatory modes that are the fiat standard. Anyways, I just absolutely love free market competition. It's the greatest thing on planet Earth, and no status can stop this. Anyways, I do want to read one comment from Rumble. I'll pull it up right here. Shouts out the Narwhal Tacos, and he goes, keep in mind, we only learned about Bhutan's mining because they were mentioned in the Celsius legal case. Otherwise, we don't really know how many sovereign nations are mining. So,
and that's an incredible point at Narwhal. And by the way, Narwhal had an awesome other comment as well, and I have to say it. And in its relation to the ETF, he said the CCP needs centralized SAT stacks to seize, just like the US does. It's so true. Anyways, going back to that comment. Yes, that came out, and that was part of the Time Magazine article, is that only came out due to the Celsius bankruptcy. They weren't going to tell anybody. I mean, now that BitDeer is involved, obviously it's a publicly traded company. They have to make that disclosure public, but they weren't saying anything, and they didn't want the media attention. Like, they saw what was happening in El Salvador. They saw what was happening. How much S El Salvador got when they made Bitcoin legal tender. They're like, yo, I don't want any of that. Like, why do we have to tell anybody? And that's such a good point. So, what other nation state that has a tremendous amount or an excess amount of, electrical production capacity is secretly mining Bitcoin? That's a really good question. I think, over the next couple of years, I'm telling you, I don't think we're only just going to see Bitcoin. I don't think we're only going to see more Bitcoin legal tender laws, but I think you're going to start to see more of these, more of these countries come to the realization that, holy cow, we can monetize this stranded energy. We can monetize this excess energy. It's a no-brainer. Look, do you think that, the great people over in Bhutan are mining Bitcoin for ideological reasons? Like we are, like, yeah, Bitcoin or slavery. No, they're like, dude, like this is money, right? Like they're doing it out of the pursuit of the profit. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, right? So that's an incredible point by Narwhal Tacos. Also, seems like we got a super chat, Opti, that we missed.
Yeah, we did.
Let's pull up. So by Thomas Hera, Appreciate the $2, man. He says Bitcoin must be the only coin.
I'm looking for it.
Yeah, we'll pull it up. Appreciate the super chat. Thomas says Bitcoin must be the only coin. Bitcoin is the only coin. I mean, like, look, if you want to buy a shit coin for whatever reason, that's totally up to you. That's your prerogative. It's your money. But I mean, once you see Bitcoin's incentives, like once you understand Bitcoin, you understand that Bitcoin truly is the only coin. And by the way, I'm including fiat in this as well. Fiat is like government backed, violent backed shit coinery, essentially. It's like a government holds its populace hostage, and under the threat of violence, it's like, you guys must use this shit coin that is constantly losing value, or else. Like, it's so absurd once you see it that way. Anyways, I do want to get
I want to say one last thing before we pass it over. Profits are good, guys. Do not let them psyop you into believing that profits are bad and that you're a greedy capitalist. Profits are what makes the world go round. All right.
Who said otherwise?
I would drop the C word, but the collectivists out there think that profits are bad and you're a greedy capitalist and you should do more for people. Profits are great.
And we got so MG Smith coming in hard, says Opti is an insider. Just ask Chris.
Okay, I guess. All right, let's go with Pat first this time.
I didn't see the last part.
Pat, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, you're a farmer, bro, so you understand energy production. I think I think it was you, or maybe it was Paul that said, no, it's Paul. Sorry. So Pat, anyways, what's your thoughts on all this? You understand energy. You create energy and you make it into tasty, delicious food.
Yeah, I'm really just here for the comments. These things are off the hook, and just sitting here listening to you two speak and watching these things roll is really what I'm here for. I said it previously, and I'm not afraid to sound like a canary. The more the government can stay out of your way and allow you to go do the right thing and the things that benefit your family, I'm always for that. I think we've gotten away from that as a country, and I hate seeing stuff like this. And hopefully it goes the way that CCP did, and they roll it back in a few years.
Definitely. They're going to definitely have to roll it back. You got to love free market competition. All right, Paul, jump in. And you also have some other insights on this. So jump in on this.
Yeah. So I think you and I align on, like, we think ranchers are going to be the new wealthy. And what's the interesting segue here is, like, when I showed up to the farm in KC, I said, Pat, do you smell that? What does that smell? And he's like, it's cow shit. I'm like, actually, we can turn cow shit into money. Yeah. And his face was like, it was like a combination of, like, stay the fuck away from my family, and like leaning in. And I was like, I'm not going to get to that level with Bitcoin with him just yet. But that to me is so interesting. Like, our R&D plan really could include, how do we turn this methane into Bitcoin? Right? That's fucking crazy. I don't know if we can, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah, you actually can. You definitely can.
I've definitely heard of Bitcoin companies that are like, there's companies that are like literally specializing in doing just that, and again, I think I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's just another example of like, okay, guys, just to put it bluntly, we got another super chat. Gabe Harris, appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the $10. Gabe Harris said, God bless you too. Been listening on Spotify more and more the last year. Simply Bitcoin has definitely improved. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot to us. Anyways, so back to the topic at hand. Bitcoin monetizes shit. I mean, how else do you want to put it? Like, it's as simple as that. Like, even shit, Bitcoin can monetize, which is absolutely crazy. So, yes, this is what we mean by stranded energy. That's an example with our friends over here. And it's just like, it's just nothing else. Okay, tell me, how else are you going to monetize shit? Okay, fine. You could turn it into what? You could turn it into fertilizer, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, turn it into bombs. Of course, we live in the fiat world. I don't recommend it, but that's what they do, Nico.
That's not what Bitcoiners do. Okay, Bitcoiners don't do that. We are peaceful. I didn't even know that you could do that. But apparently,
it's true.
Apparently, that's from the movie Fight Club, isn't it?
and the Anarchist Cookbook, I think. But hey, what do I know?
How does Opti know that? I don't know. This is a peaceful revolution. At the end of the day, Bitcoiners don't make bombs, but governments sure do make a lot of bombs.
No, what I was saying is that the fiat world is a perpetual war machine, and that's their only use for fertilizer. We make food. We make energy out of it.
Exactly. We make Satoshis.
Yes.
We make toasters, essentially really hot toasters. Anyways, the chat's wilding out today. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to
let's talk steaks.
Let's get to the culture. We have a lot to talk about. Let's talk steaks. Let's talk beef. Let's talk protein. Anyways, before we do that, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to one of our sponsors. And of course, I am talking about the Orange Pill app. Guys, it's extremely important that you stack friends who stack sats. Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most influential and powerful people in the next 5 to 10 years. It's probably a good idea to build up that Rolodex of Bitcoiners around you. You pull up the Orange Pill app. It has a clever filtration system so that you won't find any altcoiners on there. You won't find any scammers on there. You'll find Bitcoiners. And if you go to a city, you don't know anyone, or you don't know anyone in your area, it will show you the Bitcoiners near you. That's what the Orange Pill app is for. It allows you to message them. It allows you to connect with them. It's also the #1 resource for creating Bitcoin-only events. Also, Simply Bitcoin has an exclusive Simply Bitcoin Orange Pill app group chat. I tend to post there every single morning, Bitcoin or slavers, something like that. And I also take the time to try to reply to each and every single one of you. That's one of the best ways to reach me. If you want to connect with me, download the Orange Pill app, stack friends who stack sats. You could scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Again, this is an excellent resource to connect with fellow Bitcoiners who are near you geographically. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have a lot to talk about. Opti's cracking up. I want to know.
The chat's going crazy today. The chat's going crazy.
Oh, man. I saw that. Oh, God.
Keep going.
The Daily Culture.
The chat. All right, guys, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KB Racks. They're the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You got to check out the racks. You could do that by scanning the QR code or checking the link in the video description. You could check out their inventory in their Telegram marketplace and connect with the member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them. They have a vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. Unique items inventory, reliable and transparent equipment warranty, firmware services. Guys, check out Kaboom Racks today. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, we want to talk to our guests. Our guests are with, a quick reminder, the Kansas City Cattle Company. And coincidentally, you guys are Bitcoiners now. That's absolutely awesome. I mean,
they just went on the Bitcoin standard.
Bitcoiners and steak, they go hand in hand. I feel like it's like a match made in heaven. So you guys, Opti just said you guys just went on the Bitcoin standard. Why? What happened there? How did you guys come to that realization? How did you guys take the orange pill? How did you guys have the eureka moment? I have so many questions.
I can take that. So I'm kind of new to the industry. I know fuck all about it, but I wanted to help Pat and just like, if I could get some Wagyu beef out of this, that'd be amazing. And when you kind of dig into what's happening for these farmers in this industry, it's corruption at the highest levels. And like local farmers and ranchers, they cannot win by playing that game. There's something happening, which I'm calling like a consolidation or an economies of scale of balance sheets. These big four producers of beef that import all of our beef, 85% of our beef from Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, they all kind of share the same vendors on their balance sheet. So like the money to be made in cattle is not, it doesn't go to the ranchers, it goes to insurance companies, it goes to pharma, it goes to land, it goes to banks. Okay, and they're all really in bed with each other, and you can't win that game. So you kind of have to change the game a little bit. And so like getting Pat up to speed on like why and how this is possible is like, we start with basic assumptions, right? Anything we spend anything we charge, all of our costs in terms of fiat will go up forever. Everything we take in Bitcoin, everything priced in Bitcoin will go down forever. If you want to challenge our strategy, definitely challenge that assumption. But we believe that if we're going to have to buy CapEx or inventory in the future, we need to make sure that our balance sheet or our assets go up in value and appreciate in purchasing power. The alternative is just a slow march to a death. It's really not possible to win in this industry, in my opinion, without getting on a Bitcoin standard, without appealing to Bitcoiners that can sniff out bullshit and call attention to the education that needs to happen. I just don't think you can win in this industry and beat the big four unless you have Bitcoiners behind you and your balance sheet is Bitcoin.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. But before we get in a little more of what the farmers are facing, I think it's a great story to hear how Pat just became a Bitcoiner. I think this is a message that more people need to hear. So Pat, you're the recent Bitcoin convert here. You were telling me you have literally cows right behind your wall behind there. People can, with their Superman X-ray vision, see behind you. The cows are right there. So what was your eureka moment? What made you finally realize what is happening in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, since I've gotten out of the military about 10 years ago, I've watched both sides of the government just not really care about having a balanced budget anymore. And, fundamentals of business, if you don't have a balanced budget and you're just tacking on debt, eventually that doesn't work out for you. And us as taxpayers, it's really frustrating to watch. And, Paul and I met back in October, and, he's become an integral part of the company, and he's just an awesome guy. And it often comes up in conversation with him when you're talking about anything else Bitcoin is related. And, I started doing my own research and, finally pulled the plug and started buying in about 2 months ago.
Man, awesome. Let's go.
Welcome to the party, man.
Welcome to the party. And you put your whole company on the Bitcoin standard. Love to see it. Actually, we got a super chat here, guys, so I got to give you some context here. So last week we had Lightning Goats come on, and he has this Lightning enabled goat feeder that they can send you guys sats. And so Thomas Hara goes, super chat, $2, appreciate it, bro. He's like, oh wait, this is wrong. He goes, can you name one of your cows Satoshi? And then everyone else is going in the chat.
That's not Satoshi, bro. Can you name one of your cows
Satosho. I think that's a typo. That's a typo.
No,
that's
no,
a
it's
typo.
not. That's it.
But
That's a
anyways,
cool
the
name.
other thing was
cool
you
name.
need to make a cow feeder so that they can feed your cows live and directly. The chat wants this feature here.
It probably wouldn't be that tough.
Yeah, exactly. It's been done before.
What do you feed cows?
So that's a big thing. Paul and I got, when we initially started talking, he was big on the grass fed and stuff like that. And for Wagyu beef, you want it to taste good, right? So if you look at how traditional Japanese Wagyu are raised, it used to be on some rice ingredients and things like that, but they've since gone to importing corn and things like that because it's the best thing you can feed a cow for taste quality, right? And the difference in that fat composition and the finish between grass-fed and a grain-fed cow is about 0.6 of a difference. So if you drink a beer a week, you don't really have much room to talk about there. So
I have a question. I want to kind of double back to what Paul was saying because just buried so much good information there. Said that basically small farmers are not able to compete with these large farms that have economies of scale, and you're basically making the argument that Bitcoin fixes that. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So first, I think it's an important point to say that the game is definitely rigged for the bigger guys, and I mean specifically the big four. Okay.
Who are the big four?
Cargill, JBS, Tyson, National Beef.
Gotcha.
Two of them are publicly traded. And digging in on this, right? I don't know anything about this industry. So I'm like, where are the incentives? Where do you find those? That's on a balance sheet or an income statement for a publicly traded company. You can kind of come through those. I'm looking at JBS's and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. What am I not getting? This is just an income statement. I thought their numbers were different. Well, their numbers are denominated in real, Brazilian real. Okay. So that's what we're up against here. And what happened just yesterday was I said, Pat, we need to look at this insurance line item. Let me put you in touch with one of my guys. We thought we were going to get our insurance premium lowered with an RFP. It turns out we have to pay a lot more. Okay. So what's happening is not only are the big four proliferating, but they're in bed with the USDA. And the way that they attack farmers is through regulation. It's like the shit that just happened yesterday. Not only are we trying to like make this work on razor thin margins, but those costs are going up for us. And it's through insurance. It's through like having to pay more for whether it's fertilizer or feed or something like that. Those farmers, or sorry, the local farmers are outside of the game. They don't get to play in that game. And so you do really have to change the traditional rails. In fact, like even our payment from PayPal, which was like $100K that was sitting in an account we did an event for, we couldn't withdraw that money from PayPal. They had some arbitrary reason that we couldn't take that out. And these guys have zero margins already to begin with. And you're watching this play out. And if you just look at what's happening and you look at basic numbers and costs, like they're not going to be local farmers around at all.
So they're playing dirty. They're playing dirty. This is I think this is just the container effect, like just kind of like playing out in the, in the food space. And then of course, like, if you have I'm a huge fan of local farmers just because what tends to happen is just the quality is so much better in the steak and the meat. And with these like huge like factory farms, it's kind of disgusting what's happening kind of in the back, So, yeah, wow. Okay. That's interesting. And Bitcoin gives like, it gives a small farmer a fighting chance essentially, right?
Yeah. It's the confluence, like the strategy and what I'm trying to like pitch to Pat without sounding crazy is there's a confluence of a few things with this community and what this thing actually is the craziest thing to realize is that if you save in Bitcoin, things get cheaper forever. If you save in fiat, things get more expensive forever. And that goes for our customers too. If you buy a cow from us in fiat right now, the next time you come to buy a cow, it's most likely going to be more money because our costs went up. If you buy a cow in Bitcoin, hint, hint, now in a few months and a year, you're going to buy another cow in less Bitcoin. That's where we need to change the game. The other thing that's happening is like, it's really with the community. Like we're not going to make a dent in this industry unless you get Bitcoiners who, in my opinion, are like, this is a term I've coined, like they are the perfect assholes. Like we need them to dig in on this industry and call out what's happening. And we also get them as customers, and when we will lose them as fast as if we take a shitcoin, if we say something we don't know about, if we lie or do something where you can't verify our meat. We kind of know that that's the game we're playing. It's high risk, high reward, but not if you're just honest and authentic. And we think we can differentiate, as can local farmers, on the verifiability of where their meat comes from. That is like music to Bitcoiners' ears, and they will show you that they're loyal, right? Like once we tweeted that thing out about our treasury, we got a bunch of new customers, and they're like, don't take a shitcoin, we'll drop you. I'm like, we get it. Like we know the game. And so I think the way that we win and where local ranchers win is by appealing to the Bitcoin community, getting off fiat rails, getting off even traditional comms rails. Like,
So walk us through your site a little bit. So if you go to kccattlecompany.com, right? You go and you have different
I'm
options.
on the bundles. Here's some bundles, guys.
Right. So you have 1 month. You have could you go up? You have 1 month. You have every 1 month, every 2 months, every 3 months. So and then you get to kind of customize your box a little bit. So you go down a little bit. So you get to customize your box. You can have a Wagyu. You can have a Wagyu flank steak. You can have a Wagyu flat iron steak. Wagyu. So and then I'm assuming you have picanha as well. You have Wagyu skirt. I'm getting hungry just reading this. You have Wagyu summer sausage. You have just a bunch of awesome, really, really delicious types of food. So you order a box, and then I guess it's like a subscription service, and then they deliver it to your home. Is that how it works?
Sure. And I'd love to just kind of chat at how we think we need to change our business model a little bit to be different as well, and where we're gonna how we think we differentiate and win is by some of the changes that are happening. So what you're seeing right here is you can build your own bundle, and the more you add, the more obviously we can discount it because we pay less in shipping, less in fees. So our goal there is to like find these customers that are okay with planning in the future and buying a bundle. It's where we can give them and pass on the most savings. That's one piece of the strategy. We're really appealing to people that are like, it makes sense for me to have an external freezer and buy my beef for the year. The other thing that we're doing, and kind of the innovation here, is we're now working with Little Belt Cattle Company out of Montana. That's a rancher that's a former Navy SEAL who feels the same way about how you need to raise your cattle as we do. So we sell Little Belt Cattle Company in bulk on our site as well. Now, where we think the business model changes and benefits everybody is where we can make sure everyone's incentives align. That's how we save the most money for customers. What our value is going to be is reaching out to ranchers who believe the same things we do about our cattle. They can focus on the quality. They can focus on the animal life. We can do our best to curate customers and have something like a Costco model where if you pay a membership fee for a year, I know that has like a negative connotation, but it's really getting you access to the best possible beef in the world. And what that does is aligns everyone incentives. Like the ranchers now get a little bit of a margin to take care of their cattle and not necessarily have to play the e-commerce game, not have to play the excess land or insurance game. We can help them find customers, and the customers get to come to the site and say, I know this is the best American beef in the country and it's on this site. And the more customers that we have coming and ordering from us, the more we can go back to ranchers and say, we can give you the demand. We can tell you how much demand is coming in from our customer base. That saves them so much time and money that they're just not getting right now when they have to drive into town and peddle this at local farms. So we're really trying to align incentives here and make it very public that our costs go down. The more eyeballs are on our site, the more amazing ranchers come and are involved with the site, and they get to focus on quality. We get to go back to our customers and say, we've curated the best beef in the country. It's from one of these farms. We can verify it. And the more eyeballs we get, the more we can kind of bring costs down by helping ranchers with their demand and sending them steady customers.
Love it. Well, okay, one quick question though, for everyone in the chat. Where are you guys shipping? Is it all 50 states? What's the deal with people ordering meat from you guys?
Yeah, it's all 50 states plus Canada.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. So buy more beef. It's cheaper shipping and you can get it everywhere. What's like estimated shipping times?
Yeah, so with perishable shipping, it is a little weird, right? So we ship Monday through Wednesday. If you order on a Monday, it's going to go out Tuesday. You'll have it by Thursday at the latest. So if you're ordering on a weekend, it'll go out on Monday or Tuesday. You'll get it 2 days later.
Love it. Okay, I have actually one question for you, Pat. Why I got you? Actually, I want to hit Paul and Pat on both of this. What would be like your 2-minute elevator pitch to other farmers out there about getting involved with Bitcoin, getting involved with the community? So I'll start with you, Pat. What would be your elevator pitch for people?
Well, I think most people that are involved in the ranching and ag community as a whole, it's just kind of a rebel spirit at this point. You don't get into it unless you're a glutton for pain, because it's hard work, it's low profits, it's heavily regulated no matter which side of the ag business you're in. So any way you can increase your profit margin, even if it's by a little bit, and kind of hedge your bets against the future of what the United States fiat currency looks like, it's always a good idea.
Love it. Okay, Paul, what would be your 2-minute elevator pitch?
Okay, so there's this phrase like first-time founders think about products, second-time founders think about distribution. You're literally, if you get on a Bitcoin standard, not only are your costs going down forever compared to fiat, but you're walking into the most loyal customers and distribution channel from people that won't stop buying your beef. They'll tell everybody about it. And all you have to do is be honest about this being the standard, and you will get new customers. You don't worry about distribution or paying Facebook. Like, you just literally say, we save in Bitcoin, we charge in Bitcoin, and you will get all of these customers that are absolutely insane in a good way.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Actually, can we touch on that? Because Paul, you were talking about earlier in the show and before we went on about just what were you calling it? Like lovable assholes or
No,
Bitcoin?
they're perfect assholes.
Perfect assholes. Yeah. The Bitcoin cult member mentality that like, bro, you love meat. You guys love Bitcoin. You understand Bitcoin. It's like there's a whole new market there. And I think people underestimate the lunacy of Bitcoiners in a good way. Like we are ride or die for companies that are doing good stuff.
Yeah.
We see the problems of the fiat world and it's like, all right, we would much rather send our Bitcoin to other people creating quality stuff, considering that most of the stuff we see in the world now is all superficial, especially in meat. The nutrients are diminished, and we want to eat tasty, delicious steak. Like that's the point. What else are you going to spend your money on but good food? Like delicious steaks are the way. So let's jump on the community idea for a moment.
So I think what's great about the Bitcoin community is like if I say something that I don't know about, like I'm going to be absolutely taken to task, and I kind of love that. I think we need more of that in the world. And my intro to Bitcoin was actually like I'm an angel investor, and like I look for customer bases that are just psychotic. Like calling Bitcoin customers or Bitcoiners a cult, I'm like, amazing. Like that's what you're looking for. And so like my entry road to the community was like when Clubhouse was just kind of starting. And I was in these Bitcoin chats and I heard like a really unique tonality of things, which was like, I hadn't really heard it before. It was like a combination of like confidence, a little bit of arrogance, more frustration, but also a lot of rigor. And it was like a Bitcoin fixes everything kind of chat. And people were tossing up shit like healthcare, cancer, whatever. And you heard these guys and gals just kind of riffing. And it's like, man, this is so interesting. Like these guys have all kind of done their homework. And then you think about the community a little more, and like what made me gravitate more towards it is like I love entrepreneurs. They're a certain type of person. They have to kind of look stupid, silly. Nobody thinks you're very alone. Okay, everybody thinks you're crazy, but you kind of do it anyway. And there's a lot of humility with that. And like as funny as Bitcoiners are, like there's a lot of humility with them too, because we've all had to say like, hey, look, this whole money thing, we kind of were full of shit. Actually, we don't really know how money works. And you saw guys like, Larry Lepard or James Lavish who've done this their entire life, Greg Foss, and they're like, guys, look, I'm coming in from being in the pits here. This is the best asymmetric trade you've ever seen in your life. Those guys were also the ones that were clearly explaining some of the challenges with it, some of the challenges with fiat. Those guys put me onto the US debt clock and explaining what unfunded liabilities are. So you had this insane community of, it's a very humble person that starts out and says, I don't know how money works, and I'm very public about it. And then they were really good at doing their research and their work. And so the more you kind of recognize that, and then, you'd see them put out a meme of like when the price is dropping of a frog doing a green candle line or something like that. It was like, they also have a sense of humor. They're not afraid to look silly. Like these are for sure my people, and like who I naturally would gravitate towards. And so the community was really what attracted me to us from a capitalistic perspective of like constantly looking at retention charts, constantly looking at where are things that you don't have to reacquire customers. I saw the long-term holder supply chart and I was like blown away. Like at an 80% drawdown in value of a product, any other product in the world, you wouldn't have a business anymore. With this one, not only are they excited, they buy more. And that we've just never seen that before in the history of our species. So to me, it was like, you've got this community, you've got this savings technology, and there's something really interesting here. And if you appeal to the community in the right way, and you understand them as being like perfect assholes, they're the type of people that will go and look at this beef industry, do the work, and be like, hey, this isn't right. And they'll speak up about it. They're not afraid to. So it's just a really special community to like be a part of.
Love it. Love it. Couldn't agree more. All right. We did get one question in the chat that I want to throw Pat's way. Let me try to get this set up. I don't know who it was. It was earlier in the show, but they're looking for what's the best way to prepare your steak. So he said 24 hours before meal, I had a sirloin in the freezer. How do we prepare this the best way to cook the steak? What is your thoughts on this as a guy who literally grows it from birth to grill?
It was Gabe. I saw that comment come through.
Okay.
And I had a hard time not cutting you off because it's really important to me for people to cook steak the right way. So for sirloin steak, really any of the steaks you buy from us, let it thaw in the fridge overnight. If you have to thaw in the sink, no issues. There's no harm to the meat there. Put it out on your counter. Let it come up to room temp. If you can do it like 3 hours before you're going to cook it, great. The minimum is about 30 to 45 minutes. When you pull it out, take some coarse salt, so some kosher or some sea salt, and you want to cover all sides. If you're not a big salt fan, you're more than welcome to wash that off before you prep it or cook it. But the big thing that salt does is pull the moisture out of the steak, so it allows it to cook evenly while you're doing it. From there, get a cast iron if you're doing it inside your house, piping hot. I mean, you want that thing. If you put some water on it, you want it to evaporate immediately. Sear it both sides. You're shooting for 125, 130 degrees. Just remember, it's going to cook another 10 degrees if you let it rest, which you should, for 10 minutes.
Oh man, I'm so hungry. That was great. Great advice.
I got one. I saw one more about grass fed too.
Okay, jump in.
It was somebody that mentioned cows would always choose grass over grain. 100% not true, man. I could take this computer outside right now and prove it. But like, just think about putting a fat kid in a candy shop with like an aisle of broccoli and like a bunch of candy. I don't think they're going to choose the broccoli, right?
Amazing. Okay, love it. Yeah, one of our favorite things to do when we bring on guests is them acknowledging the people in the chat, because we just got savages in the chat. You're like, no, guys, let me tell you what's going on. All right, so we are running a little long today, so I want to give you guys one last moment. So Paul, what's the final message you want to leave with the audience, and then we'll get to Pat.
I don't think we win in this industry. I don't think we bring American beef back to America unless we get the help of Bitcoiners calling out the bullshit. And if you think about what that means, if we don't win, you're just not going to know where your beef comes from, what's in it. It's not going to taste good. And if you're planning on raising a family and staying in the United States, you kind of have to attack this industry next. And we 100% need the help.
Love it. Okay, Pat, what's your last message? It could be about anything, whatever you want. What's the last message you want to leave with the audience?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Paul just said, because I think it's incredibly important. You see JBS that is a Brazilian processor, right? You see National Beef that's 40% owned by a Brazilian processor. You see Smithfield that's owned by the CCP. It's becoming very scary in this country what's happening. Food is national security, and I believe that wholeheartedly. If you can't eat, you can't do anything else, especially spend your Bitcoin. And I feel like people are kind of having this blindfold put over their heads. You can't trust the labels at your grocery store. We're seeing our inventory for cattle shrink to the lowest level it's been in 100 years. And there's like this war on domestic beef, and it's going to be a really crazy place, and we need people to support their local farmers. So please
absolutely love it. Guys, remember what we always say, weak men make a bad society. Well, it is no coincidence that the food they are feeding us is making us dumb and it's making us fat. So guys, make sure you are getting good nutrition, get good beef in you. Make sure your diet is high in protein. I know people will say otherwise, but we live off steaks. This is the ideal diet, is mainly steaks. All right, Nico, take it away. Let's wrap this one up.
Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. But the number one thing you could do to help push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution is share this content. Get the message out there. We have to take over culture. The way that we do that is by sharing Bitcoin media, Bitcoin art, Bitcoin food. That's how we do it. I do want to thank our guests, Pat and Paul.
Yeah, wait, actually, for the audio listeners, guys, where can people find you? Where do you want to push them?
Yeah, so you can follow us on social media at caseycattlecompany.com, or you can jump on our website, caseycattlecompany.com. And shoot us an email to contact us at caseycattlecompany.com if you have further follow-on questions, because I saw a lot of those come through that we didn't get to.
Awesome. All right, fellas. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Guys, that was another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. The chat's going absolutely bananas today.
I'm getting wrecked.
We are going to try to set up at BitBlock Boom. If we're able to do so, we'll be doing a Simply Bitcoin Live from the floor of BitBlock Boom. We will be streaming the entire conference on Saturday. So if you guys see us at BitBlock Boom, we'll be selling merch as well. And make sure to stop by the news desk. Love you all. Make sure to smash the like button, like I said. And we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.